Hello, Fearless Gamers, and welcome to another podcast here on Fearless Games. I'm Matt the Vet, and today I'm joined by...
James the Wildcard. I'm back.
And that's it. No one else. We assimilated the other two.
Kinda, yeah, in a way.
We just latched onto them and absorbed them, and now we are each doing the work of two people.
Basically, that's how you multitask.
Yeah. You don't get multiple people to do things, you just assimilate people.
Exactly. That's the way I was trained.
Yeah. So, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. I'm actually just getting over being sick. I lost my voice for a few days.
Oh, that ain't good.
Well, the thing, let me tell you, I've been living on cough drops and sleeping with NyQuil. Because I couldn't sleep without it.
Wait, you've been sleeping with the bottle of NyQuil with you, or like taking NyQuil to go to sleep?
Taking it and holding like a teddy bear for support.
Okay.
No, but taking it. And real quick, the pills are gigantic, and they're making the liquid formula more and more disgusting. I was using their liquid stuff, and I'm using the green one, the one that looks like poison. And it's funny, because I have that, and I have my chaser bottle of vitamin water, the Power C one, which looks like a red health bottle. So I got this shot of poison in this red health bottle. I'm thinking as a nerd, like, wow, look what I'm doing here. And it Yeah?
Go ahead.
It just tastes so vile, and we're all trained as gamers going, the green stuff, you don't drink it. But you have to drink it.
It's vile, so that's where when they say non-addictive, that's why it's non-addictive, because you just don't want to drink it after you're done.
You really don't. It's so bad. But let me tell you, don't take it unless you have to take it, Fearless Gamers. But if you haven't done it, NyQuil ever, good for you. Maybe you do the cussing, I don't know. But it knocks you out.
Yeah.
It really does. It's nice. People go, it doesn't really get rid of or deal with, your cold symptoms. But it makes it so it doesn't matter because you're knocked out. But yeah, I've been doing that. But now I'm back. I'm back on the saddle again.
Cool.
And that's what I've been up to. What have you been up to?
Nothing much. I've been painting my Dark Talon flyer.
Cool.
Which is neat, and I've got one thing I'm gonna bring up a little bit later about that, which I've been wondering about. Another thing is I got myself the Chaos Space Marine Codex, so I got that now. Number 2 of the Kelly books that I own, being the Eldar one being the first. Well, technically no, he was one of the 3 writers of the 3rd edition Necron Codex.
There you go.
So I do have that one as well. And we actually got a response from one of our Fearless for what we do, what projects they're working on while listening on to the podcast. Ninja Wolf Hybrid, he's working on creating his own Persina Warrior. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Piscean Warrior. It's the fish people, the humanoid shark people from Rogue Trader.
Yeah, I saw that comment.
Yep. And he's working on one of those, and he's using it to represent as 2 Dark Eldar units from the Codex, the Sithlith and the Grotesques or whatever. Grotesques. That sounds actually pretty neat. I did finally find a picture of one of these warrior dudes. They're actually pretty cool. For those who are not aware of what these guys are, apparently a joke around them is that the pronunciation of their name is Sardine. They're a Rogue Trader model that was created, and it was one of those models that it was supposed to be like one of those sub-alien races, that the Imperium tried to get rid of, but they couldn't. And they were just it just didn't get off the ground with these guys, so they're probably some of the rarer models that GW ever made, and people say expect to pay about $120 for one of them, if you can find one of these pewter models.
Yeah, which is, when you get back to Rogue Trader everyday models of GW, and you get one that's nice, as in it's still in its raw pewter state and not painted and crudded over, they can fetch a fair penny. And the thing is, back in the day with World Trader, GW had scores of alien races, some of them with models, most of them without, but that was there. That were either exterminated, thought to be exterminated, or hunted away from the galaxy, basically. And these aren't one of them. And, it's funny because some of these things also are pretty cheesy, but some of them are kind of interesting. They even had, you know how you have the swan in fantasy?
The swan?
The swan, the awful lizard men.
Oh, the lizard men that everyone keeps wanting to go into 40K for some reason.
They had those in space back in the day, way back in the day.
That's why everyone wants them back in 40K. Okay.
Yeah, way back in the day, there was a little thing you could buy, like Slime in Space or something like that. And it was basically like that whole thing. And it was old pewter models. But they didn't look that good, but they're old pewter models. People want them.
Yeah. It's also like squats.
Yes.
And now I just made us get banned from every 40K executive ever because I said they who should not be named.
Yes, the squats.
For anyone who doesn't know, back when GW actually had game forms, I don't know if they still have forms, do they?
I don't know if they do themselves.
I don't know, but if they still do, and you want to see how fast your account can get banned, you just write in any form, you just say the word squat at least once, you will be banned within hours.
Yeah, that is the really, really, really bad thing that they don't want to ever admit happened, but it happened. But at the same time,
at 6th edition they brought them back.
They've kind of been around under the name of the Demiurge.
Yep. But from what I've read, apparently in the 6th edition rulebook, they're mentioned as a subrace of human. They were,
but it's getting fuzzy because every so often you'll hear the end times rumor of squats are coming back, and every so often when you hear those rumors circulating, you can just picture the fire, the flame wars going on in forums and at local stores. But some people love the idea because they love basically dwarves in space.
Yep.
A lot of people hate the idea because it's stupid. Because it's basically miniaturized space marine.
Yep.
It's basically what it is. Take your dwarves in fantasy, but make that power armor instead of plate mail, and you got your squad. But at the same time, the Tau have numerous, I should say, Xenos races in their whole Tau empire. One of them is Demiurge, who are basically thought of to be like a dwarven-like thing also. So
yeah,
they've kind of always been around here and there. But this is actually a great kind of segue into something I want to ask you.
Okay.
Now, the idea of canon, whether you follow canon, like canon, or to care less about canon, I was wondering your thoughts, in your opinion, how people should deal with canon in terms of what's official and what's not, and kind of if they want to do a bit more research into it. For a couple of examples, I'll give. For example, StarCraft 1 had an expansion called Insurrection. It was made by a third-party company. Blizzard okayed it, so it's an official expansion. But Blizzard's official stance on it to this day is leaning towards non-canon. It's a fun game, but it's not really anything canon in there if you want to look at it in the timeline of the StarCraft universe. Then you got stuff, a big one I think of right now is Star Wars Episode 7. How do you deal with canon there versus canon not there? So I was wondering if you have any ideas for the fans out there in discovering canon.
Well, in terms of Star Wars, since you did bring it up, George Lucas has outright said, to this day, as it is canon as long as it doesn't contradict the movies. So movies are official canon outright, and any type of other medium that contradicts the movies is not canon. So a good example would be if Han dies in Episode 7, which is rumored. Well, Harrison Ford has originally said that he will only do it if they kill off Han. When he was on the Jay Leno show recently, he literally just said, "I was in 3 of them. That's all I'm saying." So he wouldn't even hint if he was even going to be in the 7th film or not. But but it's saying that if in Episode 7 he dies, then every book that supposedly happens after 7, where Han Solo plays a huge part, is no longer officially canon. Because that's how the creator, George Lucas, has stated it. And we've seen it happen a lot, like when Episode 2 and 3 came out, and a good example is in the Timothy Zahn books. He mentions this thing called Outbound Flight, where he says, oh yeah, they took like 5 Jedi families and a bunch of people and sent them off into space to explore the unknown universe. But then in movie 3, they go, nah, yeah, pretty much every Jedi was killed on a planet by clone troopers. So Timothy Zahn then said, okay. He wrote another story called Outbound Flight, where he corrects this information and says, oh, Jedi Savoth wanted 5 Jedi families to go with them, but the Council disapproved it and said he can only take his apprentice along with him. And that's how he rewrote it, so he gets his story back in the canon without it contradicting anything.
Gotcha.
In terms of other things, of course, first and foremost, I feel the official stuff comes first. A good example is one person that I was recently talking to, one of our fearless buddies, was saying how he thinks the Riptide goes against everything that the Tau stand for and what the Tau believe in and such. Which is, in a sense, it may be true. I never read the original Tau Codex, so I can't say.
I haven't read what the Riptide is right now.
Apparently, he made the comment, it's huge. Tau don't believe in huge super vehicles, so why is this thing made so big? What?
They have the Manta, and all of their fighters are huge. The Tiger
but those aren't war engines. Planes kind of, I guess Tau think planes are, I guess in the Tau philosophy, a giant plane is more cost effective because it's transporting an army, so that's okay. But a giant...
The Barracuda like the original fighter, the Barracuda, is pretty big for a fighter. Their current fighter right now is also pretty big for a fighter. The Tiger Shark, which is also a fighter class, which carries some stealth, not stealth, it carries a bunch of gun drones to drop off, sure, but it's still a fighter class. It's big. And the stealth drone fighters are huge. So, they make them big. They do make them big.
Well, one you can argue with is like with that stuff is what's needed to make it functional type of thing. Because granted, we don't know how this space technology works, so the Barracuda may be as big as it is because it needs to in order to stay in the air. Yeah, But then another thing, though, is the Riptide has an experimental core that has an engine that's prone to blowing up.
Yeah.
And he brings up, well, the Tau wouldn't do that. They wouldn't risk their soldiers' lives for that, and stuff like that. But officially now, it's been written into the Codex that this is something they do, and we kind of have to, in a sense. You can argue, I don't like it, but in a sense we have to accept it as canon because it's officially written in a book.
When it comes
down to like, say, fan fluff stuff?
No, that's never canon unless it's officially been recognized by the company.
Well, no, I'm just saying, going off your question about fluff and what's, canon, what's not canon and such. If it doesn't contradict anything, I'm okay with it.
Right.
And
that's different
if you're, well, no, it's in my personal opinion, you can have, like, a good example for me. I denounce that Chewbacca is dead. yes, it is canon. I will understand that it is canon right now, but for me personally, I do not accept it.
Right,
and I think it's one of those.
What I mean by that is that's different, though. Like, going back to your fan fluff thing, if, let's say, real quick, there's a fan fluff thing for space, some space marine track that they made up, right? Really cool, doesn't contradict anything. That's totally cool, and that'd be awesome, but I think canon is a stamp of more so than just being, like, non-contradictory to current timelines. You know what I mean? Like, I think the Tiger Shark chapter would have to be, can be all you want it to be, but it's not really a canon thing. I think canon is more like a seal of approval. You know what I mean?
Well, canon is, it's official, and it is accepted. Which, on that front, as long as it has the company's blessing to be done, i.e. they got permission to make it, like the StarCraft expansion, they got permission to make it, then it's officially canon. But just general, what's canon, what's not canon, I think is totally up to the person that is perceiving it. Someone who feels, like, just again, the Riptide is against canon for the Tau, that's totally acceptable. And, if you want to not accept it as a thing, then by all means. But on the front, you gotta also accept the fact that it exists, and to the company's official word, it's canon, it exists.
Like you said with your Chewbacca thing, you understand it, but you just don't accept it.
Yep, in my Star Wars universe, Chewbacca did not die the way he dies.
Right, which is, but you understand that in the grand scheme of the Star Wars mythos, that is current canon, even though you don't like it.
Yeah, and also there can be things where companies can say they're officially non-canon. Like a good example, as Elena's bringing up, the Dragon Ball Z movies. If you really sat there and watch, they do put them in a time period of where they could be, but they don't fit physically where they appear. The only exception to this would be the BoJack movie. You can throw that into the timeline and have it be acceptable. Yeah, you can throw in Tarbles. You can throw in Brawley's Second Coming. Technically can be fitted out in one aspect, and so can Bio Brawley. But those are pretty much the only films you can really give a timeline that doesn't contradict anything else that happens in the show. So it's just gone off of, okay, these are Elseworlds. These are well, they're not fan, but these are Elseworld scenarios that say, what if this happened instead? And I think that's how some of these things can be taken. If it's something that doesn't really fit, it can be just considered an Elseworlds thing, an alternate reality.
Yeah, but I think it's important for people to keep in mind, whether they like a certain thing that's officially canon or not, it doesn't make it not canon. Like the whole Riptide thing, whether or not you think it fits into Tau philosophy, which the whole idea of experimental tech has been around. That's why they had the experimental things in parentheses in the old codex. They just didn't have a negative effect to them because they didn't have negative effects at the time.
Well, I think one could argue that the ones in the original Tau codex, that they worked out the negative effects, and now they're testing to see if they're effective in battle.
Well, yes and no. You could also say that because there weren't rules back in the day for it.
Well, that's again, though, that's something you can argue with to make it work within the Tau philosophy.
It's also just the flavor of the time of codex writing didn't put a negative to a special tech piece.
Unless you're still
or orcs. Or chaos demons. Or not demons, but demon weapons. Unless you're a demon weapon or you're orcs, you only don't get a negative to what you're doing. And they're starting to bring the negative back in, which I like. But
which is odd. I've only seen it in 2 codexes. I've seen it in the Chaos Codex. Well, no, 3 codexes. The Demon Codex, the Chaos Codex, and the Tau Codex. The Dark Angels didn't really get any negative effect things on their stuff.
Well,
at least not that I can recall.
They have that one weapon that can fizzle out if you roll a 1 and it doesn't do anything that time when you use it.
Yeah, but it doesn't like kill you like in some of the like in the Chaos Space Marine Codex. If you roll a 1, you get 7 wounds with no saves.
Then there's this. I don't have the codices with me, and I haven't looked at them recently. But there are some things in that they're bringing back that I like. It's not an outright kill you, because not every negative has to be an outright kill you. But
no, I was just exaggerating. But I feel like that they're bringing back the 1 per game rules.
Right. And the whole thing about that one weapon is a monster slayer. So the whole idea is you take it and you can cut down the biggest things. And when it fizzles out, it's kind of like Phoenix in StarCraft 1 when its power blades go out. And it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
it's like, oh, that's just not good. But when it comes down to it, I feel in a gaming situation, whatever the company says is canon, and they say things in multiple ways. StarCraft, for example, they come out and said that insurrection thing, we gave them our blessing to make it, but it's not really officially canon. They haven't stated it's officially non-canon, but that's what they're leaning towards.
Yeah. See, that's where it comes in, like, if the company gives, like, here, like, another good example, just a secondary example with that is the Blood Ravens. GW hasn't said they don't exist, but GW hasn't said they do exist.
Well, they've been in Index Astartes, in an Index Astartes book back in the day. The Blood Ravens exist, they're just not saying, they're not officially stating how much canon the games are.
Yeah. But
because the games themselves have their own canon in terms of, like, Dark Crusade and all those, Soulstorm.
Yeah.
They have official canon endings. Depends on what race it is, but they're not
they have official canon endings to the games themselves. Like, this is what actually happens at the end of the game.
And, like, one of them is technically the Blood Ravens are supposed to win the campaign, so that's technically the canon ending going into the next one. But as far as how it affects 40k fluff, they're not really saying.
Yeah. Well, like I said, like GW's never said what we've learned in the games about the Blood Ravens. We're not saying it's canon. We're not saying it isn't canon. So, in those sense, I feel if the company doesn't outright say whether or not it is, but it was made in a way where you need their permission to make it, I say that can be counted as canon until otherwise said by the company.
Right, but the Blood Ravens as a chapter is officially exists. They're not saying that.
Yeah,
Gabriel Angelus existed in fluff before the game. So he's technically going to get that aspect. Not so much how he goes, but he is a named character that existed in the fluff,
Yeah. But we're saying it's like we don't like the fact that they don't know who their Primarch is still up in the air. Like GW hasn't said they do know or they don't. Like that kind of stuff they haven't really officially questioned or denied. Though in 1,000 Suns they kind of started throwing hints around about that.
Yeah, that, and there's a collective short story book that has some 1,000 Suns in there that it basically makes you not so much wonder, but it makes you think, come on, just stop throwing me a bone here and actually give me the answer. But
yeah, don't they isn't like in one of them like a 1,000 Suns sorcerer makes a comment about the Blood Ravens that basically screams that they're a sister chapter to them?
Almost. Basically, the character there, I forget what his name is, and I forget what faction he's a part of within the 1,000 Suns, but he's like one of the last survivors of like his ship or whatever, that basically going to go off and do their own thing, and he has the Blood Raven symbol on his shoulder. So it's kind of like he was part of like the Corvidae or whatever it was, or whatever the thing was, but it's got like the Blood Ravens literally on his shoulder pad emblazoned, and he survived. And they're going off to do to basically be their own thing. Is how the short story basically ends, and it's like, okay, well, so those are the Blood Ravens. You don't get to, it's like they don't tell you, but it makes you want to say it is. But yeah, like a company can come out and tell you what's canon and what's not canon. Yeah. And when a company is like Games Workshop was used, because we know that one the best out of really all the companies. Their codex and their main rulebook is canon. Whatever the latest codex is, that's canon. Whatever the latest rulebook is, that is canon. So anything in the prior codices, I don't say it's not canon, but it's usually built upon.
Well,
so
it's
For example,
usually one of those things.
The big jumping difference. Basically, nothing like the old codex. But
Yeah.
that means certain codex, Necron is just canon.
Yes, it's one of those things where, again, like, here's a good example, is the Dark Angels Codex. In the first edition codex, in the second edition technically, codex, they state the fate of Lionel Johnson.
Yeah.
In the third edition and the fourth edition codex, they basically don't say anything about him. So at that point, it's, they don't say it's still not true, so you can argue that it is true until Games Workshop says otherwise. Then, of course, in the sixth edition codex, they come back out with the official word on Lionel Johnson.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that I feel sometimes makes or breaks a person's feeling about a codex. When they have, like, the established codexes that have been created, and they really love what they read in that, and then the next codex comes out and totally changes everything that they know and love about the army.
Well, yeah, but by and large, I felt personally in reading multiple codices as they come out for all the armies,
Yeah.
the way the army is, at its core remains the same. Now, there may be certain things that you don't like, that really leave a bad taste in your mouth. Like, Necron's talking, for example. Maybe that really bothered people. But
apparently a lot of people did not like that.
Right, but the Necrons at its core still plays the same. It's not like it's playing radically different now. But it's all about the flavoring of what you like. Now, the issue I have is, like you mentioned, the Dark Angels, is they give us really good secret information, like you said, with the Lionel Johnson.
Yeah.
And then they took it away. That doesn't mean it's non-canon, it just means it's secret.
You really need to know your Dark Angels to know it.
Yeah. That's the kind of thing that's annoying in a way with secrets that you want to keep as a fluffy secret thing, especially if you put it out there before, it's the line between, is it a secret or is it no longer a part of it?
Yeah.
You know? It's a fine line that sometimes you cross. But whatever is current, edition-wise, in any game you're playing, either the canon, you don't have to like it. I knew a guy who played Chaos Space Marines when the 4th edition codex was out. He would only play casual games with the 3rd edition codex.
Yeah.
Because he just didn't want that one to exist. And that's fine, as long as he understands, canon thing, that the 4th edition codex is canon.
Like we've said, it's okay to not like something, it's okay not to accept it as your own, standing, but we all kind of just gotta bite the bullet and admit, this is where they're going.
Yeah.
Like, a good example, I didn't like the Clone Wars in Star Wars, but I have to deal with the fact that the Clone Wars that I was told about is no longer actually the Clone Wars. Right.
It's just a bite the bullet family. There's been stuff to come out and going back to 40 years, the codices that I didn't really want them to do, but they did. And I can't say, well, this is not what would happen in that race, because I'm not the owner of the content. I mean, this is clearly what's happening with the race because it's out there and we have to deal with it. Now, the thing is, with this, we have kind of an interesting concept here, and Private Press has it too, to an extent. Novels.
Yep.
Now you get to run with novels in the 40K universe, and they do a good job of keeping it where it's basically canon. There's never been one that's not been canon. But
what I always find interesting, and I'm reading this one book right now, and I'm waiting to see, I'm reading Fallen Angels, the sequel to Descent of Angels, and Astalin is in that book, the Fallen from Angels of Darkness.
Yep.
And I'm very curious to see how he's written, to see how well the author keeps ties to his original incarnation, so we can establish that it's the same person.
Exactly.
And at that front, how would you discern canon if a character drastically changes like that between one author from another?
Personally, I would look at it in terms of timeline. So I know Angels of Darkness, not Angels of Darkness, the Fallen Angels, whatever one, the sequel is to Descent. I keep forgetting the name.
Descent of Angels is the prequel to Fallen Angel.
Yeah, so Fallen Angel, I know, timeline-wise, takes place a whole lot of years before Angels of Darkness.
Yes.
So, if there were, I'm just using that timeline disparity, if there is a timeline disparity where there's like years between one book and the other, then even if there's a radical change, short of it becoming a woman, you know what I mean? I'm a man, I can deal with it, just because...
Wait a minute, weren't you a man a few years back? I got sick.
Exactly. Just short of that, I can almost deal with time changing a person, even so much, times and events and actions can change a person.
All right.
I'm almost okay with it myself. Like I said, unless it's like, wait a minute, in this book you're a man, 6'7", and had no lungs, or because you were in a big machine, and now you're a schoolgirl. What's going on? And that's a no-no.
Or even better, even weirder, you have one book where Bjorn is a dreadnought, and in the book that's like 3 years later, he's not a dreadnought anymore. Yeah,
I think you go, wait a minute.
For those who don't know, Bjorn is the named character dreadnought of the Space Wolves.
Yes. And once you become a dreadnought, there's no coming out of it. But yeah.
Well, unless you're Space Wolves, because they get better.
Sure. Exactly.
Hey, I would not put it past them to make the Space Wolves, for some reason, make magic dreadnoughts that allow you to come out of them.
Right, I know. But...
Which, just randomly, apparently there's a rumor that they're going to be getting, in their 6th edition upgrade, is going to give them new Wolfen models.
Well, I'm okay with that. If the Wolfen come back as a thing, and not just like, oh, by the way, you can take Mark of the Wolfen and then you get like this special ability with no downside. No. If they come back as a unit, fine.
Yeah, I find it interesting. I'll then sit there and I will buy a bunch of Grey Knights and have them fight every Space Wolf player I meet, because evil.
Yeah, the Wolfen, mutation to the extreme. But, that's one thing I will say. I was very disappointed that the Wolfen, as what we knew the Wolfen were, weren't even mentioned in the Space Wolf covers. Which, again, it could be a whole secrecy thing, so it's not, maybe, the canon could still be there.
Yeah, it's one of those things, they don't mention it, but they don't contradict it.
Exactly. And that's the thing with canon, I feel, especially when a company comes out with new editions of things, codices, whatever it is, rule books, that's the current canon of the situation. And that's what you have to deal with. And Forge World does a good job of trying to keep everything in canon as well. Everything Forge World does, because it's in workshop, everything other stays in canon. So, you have, another big thing was the XV9. A lot of Tau players were like, XV9 doesn't make any sense for Tau. Well, here it is. It's there, and it's official, so it's canon. You have to deal with it.
Speaking of that, just with Forge World, do you know a place, because one of the Fearless asked me, do you know a place where one can get the rules for the Barracuda and the Orca and all those Forge World flyers, aside from the Imperial Armour Volume 3 that's no longer existent?
They use. I don't know if I don't have access to the webpage right now, but they used to have a section of the experimental rules where you could download rules. So,
oh, that's right. What you could do is yes, that's right. If you Google searched Forge World Tau Barracuda experimental rules, you should still find the Forge World download page. It's written in hundreds of links that you could still get to, but they don't have a direct link from the Forge World site.
Yeah, those PDFs should still be up. It might be a bit difficult to track down. It may not be updated for 6th edition, let's say, but it can give you the gist of what the unit is.
Well, aren't they doing that now? Aren't they going back and re-releasing the books with the updates?
Yeah. From what I've seen.
So hopefully, for those, if the particular gentleman is looking for downloads and such, this doesn't have all the official rules, so I don't know if what they're looking for is going to be here. But if you go to forgeworld.co.uk/news/downloads.html, then that is a link to pretty much all the downloads of PDF files, and the experimental rules and such. Unfortunately, looking here, I don't see the TOW, but I think that's because they have the official book now.
Yeah.
So, but again...
What I can say about the Orca is that it holds 3 battle suits, and it holds, I think, 2 squads of fire warriors. If they're wondering what it holds.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the description. Hopefully what they're looking for is here, but I don't see it.
Now, the Orca is a big drop ship. It may have some weapons on it. I don't even think it does. It's more of a big drop ship that can hold a full, a 3 suit squad of battle suits, and I think 2 12-man fire warrior squads in it, as well as maybe some drone support. It can hold a lot, basically. That's all it does. And the Barracuda has an ion cannon in there, and I think it has detachable drones. I don't know 100%.
Now, and just a question: do you think that that Forge World should still be making the Imperial Armour books, even if they are out of date until they make new ones?
Yes and no. It's a big undertaking to take your book that you have probably laying, in your warehouse, 50 copies, let's just say, sitting around. It's a big expense to basically destroy those, rebuild the entire book, reprint the entire book just for maybe 20 pages that you have to change, and maybe of that is very minute changes that you could do in an errata. But at the same time, it would be nice, especially for certain things, especially the older books, which they're flat out redoing, to get changed, because some of the older books are just so, Imperial Armour 1 and 2 are just so outdated.
What I'm saying is, let's just say, for example, they did re-release Volume 1, 2nd edition.
Yeah.
And Volume 2 and Volume 3 are all are out of print. They're out of stock now.
Yes.
I personally think, would you agree that maybe they should still be making those books until they made a 2nd edition version of them, for those who still want to buy the book and have all the information and such, and be willing to buy the 2nd edition when it comes out?
It would be nice, but just from a printing standpoint, of printing the book, it's probably too much of an effort. You know what I mean? Because let's say they made 5 copies of Imperial Armour 3, only 2 were sold because people are waiting for the 2nd edition. Then you have 3 wasted copies when the 2 comes out. But it would be nice to have. What I think at the very least they should do,
maybe do a made-to-order.
Either a made-to-order. They're expensive enough. It probably covers that. Or put up not so much special character stuff, but if you can, people can buy Barracudas, put up the Barracudas PDF. It's not going to hurt sales of the book when it comes out again.
Or if anything, at least here's one idea that I just thought of. Why not just put a copy of their entry with the model? Say if you buy. Let's just say, for arguing example, the Phantom Titan, the book that the Phantom Titan in is no longer in print. Yeah. When you buy a Phantom Titan, how about just send you a copy of the Phantom Titan's page with all of his rules and information?
It would be nice, but I would also require them to send you paper with the model.
Well, instead of sending, they send you the instructions anyway, which are sometimes not the best. And they can just print it on the back of the instruction manual.
Yeah, they got enough room because they don't give you any real instructions with a picture and go, great, awesome, I got 75,000 parts.
Well, to be fair, they do show you close-ups of the Titans with them. Like I remember getting the Dark Angel Dreadnought, and it was just a picture of the Dreadnought with arrows pointing to pieces.
Yeah,
and I was like, that tells me nothing.
Exactly. He's just looking at it going, all right, well, I guess I'll get this out myself. Thanks. It's just, granted, the Dreadnought wasn't a bunch of pieces, but it's just some model.
But like, still, well, there was one part I was like, is this part of it? Is it Flash? What is this?
Yeah. But it would be nice if this included rules with the forward models.
It doesn't have to, like I said, it doesn't have to be with every model. It's just like with models that they know the book is no longer out for.
Yeah. And here's my crazy thought, and I wonder if any fearless gamers agree. Forge World is Games Workshop. They're a division of it. We know this.
Yep. For those who don't know the official ruling, from last I heard, it was the founders of Games Workshop, when they basically, stepped back and let other guys handle the Games Workshop thing. They went, you know what? Let's make those models we always wanted to make but couldn't. And bam, Forge World.
Right. And Forge World's a division of Games Workshop. That's when you look at all the Forge World books, it says, Games Workshop.
40K approved, Apocalypse approved.
But, I think the official stance should be everything Forge World allows in any game, tournament or otherwise. Because people aren't holding back buying models because it's not officially allowed in tournaments. It's not like you go ping and all of a sudden people are going to flood in and you're going to be facing things you've never seen before. The sales won't really change. But there's no real reason not to. I mean, they're very well done and balanced wise for rules. And, like, for example, XD9 are not broken.
Even with that, sometimes the rules are even harsher on their models.
Yeah, because it represents fluffy stuff mostly, and that's it. So, and they're making rule books. The Imperial Armour books are basically a really cool, fluffy rule book.
Yep.
Play in that particular campaign scenario, or just play with a model in general. Same thing with the Horse Heresy book. Now, yes, you can say Horse Heresy books are not used in 40K games because of a 30K game score.
Yeah, which is understandable.
Yeah, you can't have Primarchs fighting on the same battlefield and their point structures are different, represent legions. So the Horse Heresy books will not be allowed.
Oh, yeah, no.
Because it's a completely different 30K and 40K.
But
Imperial Armour, though. Imperial Armour is very much in line. In fact, if people want to play real Deathcore Krieg, they would have zero vulnerability saves because they don't get anything fancy like that.
A good thing is I was in a tournament. I was like, would you mind me using these Imperial Armour things? And they're like, yeah, you could use the units, you can't use the tank. I'm like, and I was like, you just saw this dude. He popped it in turn 1. What's so bad about it?
Yeah.
It's no worse than a regular Eldar tank. It's just going to be the first one to go.
Like
I said, when I found, Imperial Armour isn't used because it's so broken, I was like, what's there broken about it?
I mean, there's really not, at most what's broken about it, we could be considered special rules, like, for example, Captain and Androcles of the Star Phantom unlocks Devastators as, I think, choices. So,
which can be a little nasty.
Or maybe he makes some scoring. Maybe it's not. I forget. It's something, one or the other. Either way, yeah, maybe a little bit. But if you're taking a bunch of Devastators, your scoring is going to be small. And the moment you're going to be weak hand to hand, even though you're Space Marines, because you have a bunch of lav cannons that you're trying to beat people with instead of power fists.
Yeah,
so,
I think I would say I use Imperial Armour models in my army all the time. You guys never have an issue with it.
Oh,
I don't see, and also White Dwarf actually says, Forge World, beautiful design models, usable in 40K games.
Yeah, because that's what they're built for. So I think if GW just went out and said, listen, here's a bulletin on their website, with a permalink to click it to view it. Forge World models are acceptable in 40K, and even Fantasy, I would assume their models are pretty balanced as well. Games, including tournaments and stuff like that, or somehow officiated.
Well, Unfortunately, though, with that, and it's pretty much the sad truth, the only way GW can officially say it where everyone will accept it is, and they don't do this anymore, is if they ran tournaments and said Forge World model's acceptable. Then every other tournament will be like, well, if the GW tournament uses it, then we'll use it.
Well, they still have Armours, don't they?
What?
Don't they still have the Armours tournament?
I don't know. As far as I'm aware, like, everything that I've read and such, I've seen very few, like in their magazines and such, they don't really advertise any ornaments or talk about the Golden Demon Awards or just the painters now. Yeah. Like, I don't know if they really do official tournaments anymore.
Even if they don't, if they just came out and said they are now allowed, local tournament organizers, especially those who organize it in a hobby store, will eventually come around, especially if people are more and more going, hey, I want to order Forge World for you. You know?
Yeah, a good example is there's a tournament there's a living campaign, I'll call it, being set up at Brothers Grimm with us. I'm working with one of the guys to get this whole thing going, and if I last recalled, we were allowing Imperial Armour. I was like, they spent the money. Let's let them have fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point. And I think a lot of tournament organizers would really go, you know what? Sure. I mean, you still have this. No super heavies. Done.
Yeah.
Because no super heavies aren't allowed in a normal game. So you go, no super heavies.
And if you even think about it, a lot of the Imperial Armour things are heavy point costs. So if anything, the players hurting themselves over anything with this.
Yeah. I mean, super heavy I can see, because you can't take super heavy than normal 40K game.
Okay, this is really bad. When Imperial Armour first came out, I actually had one of the old, when they were printed in Codex style Imperial Armour books, and they actually had rules for a Titan and a Thunderhawk and super tanks in 40K games. Yeah, they were dumbed down to no end, but they did make it work.
Yeah, I mean, you could make it work.
What was it? I think they made a Warhound Titan 500 points.
Yeah, I mean, you could make it work. You can make it, you can trade in your heavy support section to have a super heavy. One super heavy. You could do stuff like that. But instead of making work, just no super heavy, because there's plenty of Imperial Armour stuff. And really, no. It's just,
even on this date, I'm waiting for Apocalypse 2.0, so the super heavies become legit right now, because I'm kind of about the three hull points for every structure point, and they made it very confusing. It's wait a minute, do I roll on the way they wrote the errata? I was like, so are you telling me to use the 6th edition damage table, or do I use the Apocalypse damage table? Which one do I use?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it is a little confusing. But yeah, no, I mean, Forge World stuff is canon. Forge World models are cool looking. Forge World rules are not broken.
And in fact, a lot of the Imperial Armour models that they created are created from fluff written in the codex and rulebooks.
Yeah. So, I mean, all that stuff is canon, whether or not you like the Death Corps Creed, they exist. I mean,
yeah.
And if you play Death Corps Creed, you're really at a disadvantage. You don't get medics, and you don't get vulnerable saves.
Yep, well, because, that whole martyr thing.
Yeah, and then in place of medics, you get the the quartermaster guy who just takes your dead body's stuff and gives it to the next guy. But
yep.
I mean, that's cool. I just don't see a reason why that's never been allowed. I've never seen a reason. I would love to use some of the dreadnoughts, their cool, siege dreadnought thing. I mean, I would never make it close enough for it to use as a weapon, but it'd be fun to field.
Have you seen the new the Chaplain Dreadnought? Does he actually have rules?
Yeah, he basically has the whole Litanies of Hate thing for him, and I think maybe I forget if they updated it where it's aura around him. Basically, his Litanies of Hate, and that's about it.
That is awesome.
And he's venerable because he's a chaplain.
So, speaking of that, are you excited for the new Tesla Arc thing from Forge World?
Which thing are you talking about?
It's the new Necron Tesla vehicle.
I haven't seen pictures of it, but
You haven't seen pictures of that thing?
No, I see pictures of everything.
I gotta show you pictures of it. Here, I'm putting a link in the description. It's on the cover of the book. Have you seen the cover of the book?
Oh, yeah. I've seen what you're talking about.
Yeah, it uses the power of the sun to create a Tesla weapon.
Which is cool.
And you can see that they clearly used a Necron fighter for part of the model.
And I like that they're giving Necron some loving now, you know?
I do like that they're giving them
sharing love.
I just find it like, I hope that they have more than just the portable pylon, the Tomb Citadel, the bomber, and this Tesla arc, because I think they need some more cool Forge Worldy stuff. They need a super heavy that's more than just a pylon, in my opinion.
I sit here and I shoot things.
And don't forget, he also negates psychic powers when you're within a certain range of him.
Yeah, but all you gotta do is just stay away from him. It doesn't really move.
Yeah, but
it's kind of
cool. Yep, it just drops pie plates.
Yeah. They do have a cool centipede thing.
Oh yes, the Tombstalker.
Yeah.
I think they get a variant of that in the Imperial Armour because GW kind of took it.
That'd be cool. I like that they're getting some love. And Necron has always had cool weaponry ideas and this cool, fun little, like, almost like classic sci-fi weaponry ideas that I've always really liked. That's why I've liked them. That's why I've liked the Tau. They fit more of like the sci-fi. They take more of the sci-fi route than the mystical route.
Yeah. I do say, I feel the one army that gets the most jip on Forge World, and I think they need more loving, is Dark Eldar.
Oh yeah, Dark Eldar have a fighter, which is now plastic. Hooray!
And they've got the Dark Eldar Reaper, the Dark Eldar Tantalus, the Void Dragon Phoenix, and the Reaver fighter. Yeah. The Raven fighter, sorry.
Okay, isn't the Raven the plastic kit?
No, I think that's something else. Let me find out.
Yeah, Dark Eldar got shafted hard before.
Even it's a little thing. Why not make a Dark Eldar upgrade kit for the Titans?
Yeah, it's something.
Okay, they're not really big warmonger stuff, but I'm sure they have. I'm sure they have Reverend Titans. At the very least, and one or two super heavies. Okay, they may not have the Phantom Titan, but still give them a couple of upgrade kits to make some of the super heavies Dark Eldar-y.
Yeah, or make this some upgrade kits for Dark Eldar units in general, just to make some more.
Oh, that's right. Fighters were heavy supports before the new Codex thing. The fighter that GW gave them was the Razor Wing jet fighter.
Oh, excuse me. This one looks almost like a Raven.
Actually, no. The difference is the Razor Wing kind of looks like an Eldar flyer, but all sharp and spiky. The Raven looks like a jet bike with wings sticking out the side of it. Like they literally took the jet bike that they made and added these giant like batarangs on the sides of it to make it have wings.
Like I'm surprised Forge World hasn't given them like cool looking jet bikes. Just give them something.
Yeah. Speaking of, have you seen the bikes that Forge World's making for Horus Heresy?
Yeah.
They look cool in my opinion.
They look cool. One of the bikes they made look cool, but it just doesn't look Space Marine. It looks more like the curvy one.
Oh, the new like rip off of Judge Dredd one?
Yeah. It looked cool, it just didn't look Space Marine.
I can see where you're going with that. I do like that they use the old second edition plasma gun look for the plasma guns.
It's something cool model. I mean, here's a perfect example of what they can do for Dark Eldar is what they do with Space Marines. You made the different marks for the armor, no rules of defense. It looks cool. You can give something for the Dark Eldar, an upgrade for like the jet bikes, an upgrade for the witches, an upgrade for like even the incubi or their warriors. It's just upgrades or full on kit. It doesn't need to do anything different rules wise. It just looks cool. I know people buy it, and that's why you buy the Mark IV armor, because it looks different.
Yeah. Speaking of, Forge World hasn't produced a Titan, a Primarch recently since Angron.
Right.
Who would you like to see come out next?
Oh, I'm torn between somebody from the current Corsairs book or like the hot Primarch from the second book. Because the second book, whenever that comes out, the Primarch from there would be cool. But I think probably would like to see like each book get their Primarch before the next book does.
Yeah. So
I could see kind of leaving Horus for like last of 4 in this book. I would like to see. Honestly, I'd like to see Mortarion next.
I have to admit, I'd like to see Fulgrim.
I'm interested in Fulgrim, but the same notion, I just feel...
You like Mortarion better?
I just think that we will get I think Mortarion, I don't want to say it's easier to do, but it will be easier to get across without disappointing people. Like, Fulgrim is not one of those guys that people have a very clear image of, and you don't want to make him too static looking or too dynamic or too crazy. You don't want to make him too sane either.
My only issue with Mortarion is what I'm afraid of with Mortarion, what I'm expecting to happen when his model comes out, is that when we get him, he's just going to look like a fancy version of Typhus.
Yes and no. I can see the concern there, but his armor is really cool looking, and he's got a really cool ranged weapon. And, he's still suitably ornate without being crazy. And it's just, I think it'll be cool because they gave us a lot of the Death Guard stuff in Forge World already. So, I mean, you might have to put the icing on the cake with the primer.
Yeah.
Which is why, because there hasn't been too much for Emperor's Children's stuff yet. The only other one I could say is Horus, because you've got Abaddon and Loki.
Yep.
So,
but like you said, that's something probably want to save him for last to build up that OMG Wednesday coming out. Yeah,
which is kind of why I wish he wasn't in the first book, because if they're going to wait, the villain is really going to be like, come on, man. But speaking of, not speaking of anything, but a rumor, and, we got, first they saw this cool Forge World mechanical stuff.
Oh, yes.
Those cool robots, which are really, cyborg stuff, which is really cool. But there's been talk circulating, not so much loudly, but it's been recirculating, that Mechanicum may get a codex.
Yes, one thing that I heard was that they might get like a mini dex, where they get a bit of small things and are built more where you could build an army out of them, but they function better as an ally force.
Which would be cool.
Which would be cool. I do know right now, even if it doesn't happen, I'm buying those Mechanicum troops that they just released and counting them as Ogrins.
Yeah.
For my Sakari warriors.
Yeah. I mean,
because they look just
cool
awesome.
Allies. They do look awesome. And Mechanicum Allied Codex, first off, I think it's a cool idea, and if it is, I would almost want that to happen. You see enough Mechanicum slaves and stuff where you could almost build it on its own, but it's really kind of a codex built to be like an ally.
An ally.
And the reason why I'd say I almost prefer them to do that for Mechanicum and make it a full-blown huge codex is that opens up, if that were to do well and come across and be well received, that opens up a lot of ideas they could do with like lesser Xenos races and things like that aren't established in the fluff, but you can't really do anything with.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always wanted a Mechanicum Codex, and Fearless Gamers, I actually worked on making my own little just homebrew back and forth edition codex for Mechanicum. It never really took off because I never really wanted to build anything with it because it was homebrew. But it was just like the Mechanicum, I think, deserves. They're a huge faction that are represented by tech priests, tech marines.
Well, there is rumor that the next Apocalypse thing GW is producing is a knight.
Yeah.
Which would be cool.
It would be cool. I mean, the Knights and the Titans are kind of mechanical stuff as well, but they're kind of their own thing.
Yeah.
But aside from, I mean, we get those, and then the things that directly represent the mechanical. We got Tech Priests, Tech Marines, and that's the
Yep.
and it's like, come on, really? We don't get anything else?
Nope, sadly not.
And I like them. I like the Mechanicum a lot. I think they're a very cool idea.
Yeah, the Mechanicum is really neat. And I also would be interesting if they gave out rules for Dark Mechanicum.
Yeah, because that would be kind of cool. We got one unit of it, which is in the Chaos Marines Codex.
The Warpsmith?
Yeah, he's kind of like, the evil Tech Marine.
Yeah.
He's like that, and like his creations, those demon engine things are like...
Yeah, the new demon engines. And speaking of that, like, you've heard about I've been constantly hearing everyone saying, like, the Dark Angel flyer was very underwhelming, and I kind of disagree with that. What do you think?
Underwhelming how? Look-wise?
Everyone keeps saying, yeah, they're just very underwhelming, like, in use-wise.
I'm not a big, I don't use flyers, but look-wise, those Dark Angels flyers, they look cool. They look very much like they're built to do a job, which is very Space Marine and very Dark Angel. As far as use abilities, I think the fighter has very good uses. The other one, which has that weird glass gun, they call it, that I wish was a little bit better.
The Rift Cannon.
Yeah, I wish the Rift Cannon did a little bit more than what it does, considering the fluff behind it.
Well, it's basically a weaker version of a D-Cannon.
Yeah, but it doesn't even represent anything like that.
No, I think it's a blast weapon, but it's a strength 5 AP2.
Maybe. I think it's like
no, it's an AP nothing, because the D-Cannon has no AP value.
Yeah. But it's just like, you look at that, when you actually read the full rules of the Rift Cannon, you go, that's it? Especially when the hype they made about it, it's like that's it? So I could see, maybe that's a little bit underwhelming, but I still think that unit has a good effect to it.
Well, I think
with the Spaces bomb.
Oh, yeah, I think the issue is the Helldrake does so well by itself that everyone's expecting all these flyers to do the same and not really seeing the synergy behind them. Like the Dark Talon is great. You fly it over. Oh, your Black Knights are going to be assaulting this really nasty close combat group. Well, stasis bomb them so they're negative weapon skill 3, and then bulldoze right into them with the bikers. And another thing, the Dark Talon, the Nephilim jet fighter, has the ability to drop flyers out of the sky in 3 hits, and that's nothing to shake a finger at.
Yeah, no, the jet fighter and the Dark Talon are both very good. The issue is, like you said, they synergize. And what's the one thing that Dark Angel has done throughout their entire codex is work together. They never had that one thing that just was a beat stick for the entire army. And you look at the Helldrake thing, and you look at the Necron flyer, and you go, wait a minute, these things are so brutal.
Yeah.
And why isn't anything else like this? So you got to realize, look, those are things in codices not really meant to gel. The Chaos Codex has been a codex throughout history of a very selfish codex. Me, I'm the Chaos Lord, I'm going to be the big baddie, the whiny evil kid. It's all about me and this warband because I created it, and these things are here because I want them to be here, and they're going to slaughter and do their thing, which is why they don't move. When they fall apart, they fall apart. So everything kind of works that way when you look at it in terms of a conceptual way. And the Necrons are just, they're machines. they're not like the flyers that it takes to do its job, and it's not meant to be supported, so the flyers got to do its job.
Yep. And I totally agree with that.
And that's why I think those two do really well. The new Tau Flyer, I have to say, is nothing to shake a finger at either. And especially the bomber, just considering the ion overcharging, they can put down a lot of gunfire down there.
Yeah, I haven't really heard anything about the new jet fighter, so I have no idea.
It's got the chin-mounted burst cannon. But then it's got on the back tail, it's got a 360 mount, like a quad ion gun, basically.
Okay.
That can shoot 360 degrees, so it can shoot fighters that are behind it.
Ooh, it's a turret. Nice.
Yeah. And it can also be used to strafe the ground forces with. And since ions can overcharge, you can overcharge it for a high-strength blast weapon. And I don't know what it has on its wings. I don't know if it has what drones it has attached to it.
I think it can pick a drone for itself.
Because the bomber can, first off, I think a very cool concept for a bomber that makes its own bombs. That's pretty cool. As it drops them, I like that about the Tau. You know, just all that tech stuff, and, you know, yeah, it'll work.
Yeah, that is a very interesting idea that they threw in there.
But it's drones, I think, that it can take, or it comes with, I don't know, are drones with ion guns or ion something on it, which can also overcharge for a high-strength shot. So you got these drones that can just detach and really put the hurt on light vehicles and their drones on top of the bombing stuff. So, I mean...
It looks like it's got those rifle drones on it.
Yeah, I know they call it ion weaponry. Which one, the fighter or the bomber?
The fighter. Looks like it's got shield drones under it.
But, and I thought it was also pretty slick because the bomber, I don't know if the fighter does also, but the bomber can hold seeker missiles.
Yep.
And they actually, if it pop open, it kind of opens up a compartment, and like it's like they're hidden, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a neat little idea. I have to say that the look of the fighters has grown on me. I think the only thing I really hate is the poles going from the back to the front.
I can see that.
Like, if I were to get the kit, I probably would not incorporate those.
I like the look. For me, like overall, like I don't really. When I first looked at it, I was like, "Oh, it's not the Barracuda." Yeah, it's happy to know.
Yeah.
When I looked at
a lot of people were very upset about the fact that it doesn't have the Barracuda, and that they don't have the Barracuda. But I can understand they probably didn't want to recreate the Forge World model. Yeah,
I could totally see. I'm okay with it, and I like the look. It's very pseudo. It's very much like classic 30s, 40s sci-fi look, but refined, like a modern time. Like it gives me a very like retro look to the fighter, and a very clean look, and I like it.
The only other thing I could think of is maybe the size of the model was the issue. They didn't want to shrink the Barracuda at all.
Maybe
because a lot of these fighters are fairly small in size. And so I think it was probably more they didn't want to take a pre-existing model that was a size and then shrink it down, because then you have the argument, well, this is the bigger Barracuda, so it should have this type of thing instead of what the GW version gets, because that one's the tiny Barracuda. Like, they probably might have done it for the fact that they didn't want to have arguments over if this Barracuda works differently than the big Barracuda and stuff like that.
Yeah, because people do that. I totally see that. But, no, it looks cool. I thought everything that they do with the Tau, like the new Farsight looks fantastic.
Yeah, he does look pretty cool. It was a little bit of a shame that they kind of dropped the ball on the release.
Yeah, I mean, they did, but he looks really cool. I found it kind of surprising that they made the fine cast of the XV Commander instead of the plastic.
Yeah.
I also find it very funny in the description. They say how his hands are exposed on the battlesuit. It's like
on
the hands
Farsight?
No, on the XV8 Command.
XV8 Commander.
When you read it, it goes like his hands are displayed. His hands are displayed, thus showing his rank, is how it's described in the description of the product. And I'm just thinking, wait a minute. So, Commander to show the hand is like, no, Reginald, put your hands back in your suit. You're not a commander.
That is a little weird. We're going to have to get Starklord to explain that one to us.
It's just like, no, I'm in charge. Put your hands back in. It's like, what?
Yep. Yep.
Sure. All right, then. That's a little weird. And a little weird that he's fine cast instead of plastic. But I like that. I like the Riptide. The Riptide looks very cool. You know, people are a little bit perplexed by the whole experimental system that can blow himself up. And
a lot of people apparently are not liking that, and I'm like, you're just not liking it because you haven't had it, like, roll ridiculously awesome things for you yet. Once you get it warmed up, and it starts blowing crap away, people's opinion will change.
I like that it's a gamble. I mean, it's like...
I do, too.
It's like the whole reason why I took plasma. It could kill me, but it could also really hurt the opponent. Like, that's why, especially in 4th edition, people were so afraid of plasma. I'm like, what are you afraid of? So it hurts you. Whatever. Chances are it's going to hurt them more. So I like the whole experimental thing with the Riptide, this experimental reactor ruling. And I like the fact that it's like, oh, wait a minute, you don't just get a bonus? Oh, welcome to the world of taking a chance.
I do hope this does give me good faith in what the Eldar may get. If we get a Wraith construction as ridiculous as this thing, then I'll be happy.
Well, I like what the Riptide the most, that his head is the same size as an XV8's head. Yes,
I did find that clever. And he's actually I kind of think his price point isn't too bad for what you're getting.
No, I don't think he's either. I think he looks fantastic. I think he fits in very well with the Tau War Machine of what he is, which is basically a beat stick, which is what he's meant to be, like the blow it up thing. And you can always make a case fluff-wise for the Riptide and his experimental weaponry going. We're in a much more aggressive phase of expansion now. We can't just relegate everything to the laboratory.
So I think we've talked enough for now on today.
Yes.
So the questions for the Fearless out there is as follows. Canon, how do you reference to it? What do you consider official? What do you consider non-official?
Or do you not even care? Because there's plenty of people who don't even care, which is completely fine.
Yep, which is fine.
Play the game because it looks cool.
Also, Forge World, do you think it should be incorporated into more GW-based games? Yep. And that is basically it. Wolf Hybrid, I hope that your construction on your models are going good. If you ever get a chance, post some pics either on the Facebook page or on link in the description, because we definitely love to see them.
Yeah, so it's definitely cool to see them, and once you get them going, what your opponent's reactions are will be kind of cool as well. Because you go, what is that?
What is that?
Yes, and other Fearless gamers out there, tell us what you're working on. We love to hear it. In fact, if you're working on something you got pics, we love to see.
Yep. And for the one who's listening to us while working at the hospital, kudos to you, guy.
Yeah, way to do that. I don't understand how, and I hope we're not detracting from saving lives. That's not our intent there. Anybody else, feel free to let us know what you're doing when you're listening. And also, I don't know, I was checking out our view hits and where we're getting views from, and there's there's countries in there. I don't remember all of them, or I don't want to call them out and they say, hey, tell us if you're from there, because some people don't want to do that. But I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I didn't realize we got a couple of views from there. It's just like, that's interesting. So keep them coming, everybody. We really enjoy it.
And also, if you have any questions for us, feel free to ask them.
Yeah, we're just one of you guys when it comes down to it. So just ask us away.
And without your inquiries, we may not have shows later as the podcast goes on.
Yeah, and it's always cool to see the random questions that you Fearless gamers can come up for us. So you can post them here or on Facebook. You can go to Facebook and like us there. You can subscribe to us here on YouTube. And let us know if you care, and continue posting any questions or any comments or anything like that.
So, thank you all for listening. Until next time, Fearless Gamers, this is Matt the Vet.
James the Wildcard.
Take care.
Peace.